Ruchem Aboim B'Shem Hashem. B'Shem Yirgin Shir, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yaakov Zev Smith Shlita on Tzitzis at night. When and what? Leila Lavzman Tzitzisu. I'd like to give a big shikach to Rabbi Chaim Kaufman for sponsoring today's shir. Lila Nishmas Ovev, Rabbi Avram Zev, Ben Rabbi Chaim Arya, Zechon Revacha. Also, today's Ein Cheshvan. Tenish Moses Shur B'Sar Chaim. Have the great Chesed sponsoring a shir called Yirgin Shir Torah at 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivana.com. Maariv Smith.
This past summer, one of the Bacham asked me that he was at night, it was a hot summer night, he wants to take off his tzitzis. I said, why do you want to do that? Lyle loves man tzitzis. It's not something we hear over during the summer. People play ball or muscle at night, they want to take off their tzitzis. And it's something that I thought about, that's something to talk about really during the winter, because we'll soon start the winter, and when 5:30 could be Vadei Laila for many months of the year. And the question is that true that when 2 weeks from tonight, Sunday, Mitchem, Aleph Chayisara, so 5:30 we're not doing a mitzvah, we could take off our tzitzis. So this started me on a very fascinating journey of the concept of Laila Lavzman tzitzis and many halachas lamais, as we'll see. But we have to first learn a little bit about the source of that concept. The Gemara Menachos Daf Mem Gimel says, the pasuk speaks about the mitzvah tzitzis when you see it, prat l'ksus laila, which evidently means a beged that you wear at night, for example, pajamas, even if it has 4 corners, you're not chayiv to wear tzitzis. Now, actually, the lashon of laila lavzman tzitzis is not a Gemara, to my knowledge. Rashi says it on this Gemara, laila Rav Shimon lavzman tzitzis. The Torah and Shulchan Aruch begin our siman for today's siman Yud Ches our siman with the words Laila Lavzaman Tzitzis. So we know it's a pasuk, and the lashon is based on Rishonim. Now this has a tremendous impact on all of us because it affects probably 50% of Klal Yisrael. The same Gemara there says that Reb Shimon holds that women are potter from tzitzis. Why? Because it's a mitzvah Cheshvan grama. It's only a day mitzvah, not a night mitzvah. Now, of course, I should mention, even though our women are very mahadar in mitzvahs at the potter, they wear sukkah, they sit in the sukkah, they bench lulav, they hear shofar, because ein mitzvah is also a mitzvah, but not by tzitzis or tefillin for that matter. And this is based on a second reason that not just a potter women from tzitzis, but asa women, and that's the famous Targum Yonis Ben Uziel on the pasuk in Kiseitze lo yeh kli gever al isha, we refer to as the Issav lo silbash. So the Targum says the women should not wear tefillin or tzitzis because that's a men's mitzvah, a men's beged. So that's taka the Shulchan Aruch Yudzayin Beis. Women are potter from tzitzis al zman grama. What's noteworthy, and we'll soon use this, that regarding tefillin, it's not the case. We assume Laila Lavzman tefillin. It's not true. We paskin midaraisa, you're allowed to wear tefillin at night. It's just he might fall asleep, it might be mafiach, but the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Lamed Tzvi Beis says it clearly, you're not allowed to wear tefillin at night because you might come to fall asleep in tefillin. So essentially, Laila Zman tefillin, but definitely Laila Lav Zman tzitzis. Now the question is our group of shilas. Is it true that when it comes nightfall, again, during the winter, it could be 5:30 till you go to sleep? Are you potter from tzitzis? So to answer this, we have to pose a very simple question, really very simple, but not so simple after all. How do we explain those words, Laila Lav Zaman Tzitzis? I'll give you 2 choices. Does it mean that when it comes night, Taisa Kechavim, no mitzvah tzitzis? It's almost like making a milah at night, that's not a mitzvah. If that's the case, then we wonder why do we wear tzitzis at night? We wore it last night and we wear it throughout the year. Maybe it's even mal toisif. The pasuk is Laila Lavzman tzitzis and you know better. So, but simply put, Laila Lav tzitzis means it's not the time to wear, it's the wrong thing. Or maybe we'll be a little more moderate. And that is not the time of night is potter, but a beged of night is potter. Maybe pajamas are potter, a blanket is potter, even if it has 4 corners, because the beged of night is not chayiv and tzitzis. Sounds like a simple question. So let's look a little closer at what we just learned. But you look in the Gemara, you're going to get mixed messages. Because the lashon of Rashi and the Torah is Laila lavs man tzitzis. It sounds like it's a dinner time. Also, the Gemara says women are pot because it's a zman grama. It sounds like it's totally in the time. However, the Gemara does not say the lashon of Laila lavs man tzitzis. The Gemara says prat l'ksus Laila. It seems to be a din in the beged. A beged Laila is potter. So this simple question is a machlokes gedolei rishonim. Rashi in Menachos daf mem amud beis the maschal hachig asinan, but more mefurish the Rambam in Perek Gimel halacha zayin spells out the ferish, where the Rambam says shechoivas hatzitzis biyoyim v'loy l'balayla. In other words, like the Rambam, if you wear tzitzis after tzeisa gechavim, there's no mitzvah. You have to wonder why it's all about talis, but there's no mitzvah. Night comes, you don't make milah, and you don't wear tzitzis. However, the Rosh in Halachas Ketanis, the back of Menachos, tzitzis Aleph, quotes Rabbeinu Tam, which happens to be in Menachos, and also in two other places in brachas, and a third place in Kedushin. Rabbeinu Tam clearly holds that when you say Laila man tzitzis, it means ksus hamayuchad lalayla, which means something that you wear exclusively at night. We'll soon see pajamas. We'll worry about shlaf tzitzis. But whatever is miyuchad alayla is potter. In fact, the Rosh goes so far to say that those that wear, today that's the minhag in Gans Klal Yisrael, but then it was a chiddush, those that wear a talis on Yom Kippur could make a bracha even at night. Yom Kippur night. Why? It's a beged yom. He quotes from the Yishalmi like this, and the Rosh concludes very strongly that it's a din of ksus yoim is chayiv and tzitzis, and ksus laila is potter. So now our simple question, is it a time patur or a beged patur, is a machlokes gedolei rishonim. Rashi and the Rambam hold it's a time, Rabbeinu Tam and the Rosh hold it's a beged oriented mitzvah. How do we paskin? Very important question. So you have to realize, according to the Rosh, the mitzvah of tzitzis is beged. When we wore our talis cotton last night at 8:00 p.m., it's the same mitzvah. And like the Rambam, it's no mitzvah at all. So how do we paskin? So the Beis Yosef, now with Simon, everything is Simon Yud Ches. He says, halacha, we go with the Rambam, the Rav Muvaku, he's a great paisik. And especially Rashi holds like the Rambam. Zok Darkei Moshe, wait a second, but those that argue on the Rambam, Achachamim Gedol Muvhakim, they have the same license. And also those Muvhakim have Rabbeinu Tam. So you have, and I think that's the challenge of our sugya. This is a classic Maracha mul Maracha. You have a Rashi and a Rambam versus a Rabbeinu Tam and a Rosh. So that's some lineup. Oh. So how do we paskin l'maisa? You look in Shulchan Aruch. So this is something pretty unusual, where the Mechaber in Sif Yud Ches, Mechaber as in Beis Yosef, the Mechaber Laila lavs man tzitzis, so far so we know. The Rambam is Azoi, like the Rosh is Azoi, and end of the Mechaber. He very politically correct quotes both shittas and is not machriya. And Takatzo, a chiddush. In Beis Yosef, he's all convinced. And somehow in Shulchan Aruch, he withdrew. The Ramah gives guidance, and he says, Safik brachas lahakol, wear tzitzis whenever you can. In other words, a beged yoim, wear at night, like the Rambam sheet, like the Rosh Shita. If you wear a beged laila biyoim, you wear pajamas by day for some reason, and you have four corners, wear tzitzis, tells the Rambam. But you only make a bracha when you have both milas, beged yoim, biyoim. So the maskana is, we accepted both. I believe why this maskana, because again, it's a maracha mul maracha. You have a Rambam and a Rashi versus a Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam. And don't forget, you're playing with a bittul mitzvah deraisa. Tzitzis is a mitzvah deraisa. Regarding the bracha, we always go safek brachas lahakol. So our simple question, the maskana is both are true. Before we apply this halacha lamaisa, I'm going to ask you one more question, and that is, like the Rosh, a woman potter from tzitzis avada. Why? Zman grama. But like the Rosh, it's not as Zman grama l'chayra, because it's the even at night. So this sounds like a good kasha, but it's not. And the Rosh himself bavarns this, as Tzitzis and minhag the Benatam also bavarns this. And they say, you're right, it's not a clear-cut Zman grama like the Rambam, it's day versus night. But Rabbi Yid, why is it totally in Beged Laila? What's wrong with Beged Laila? Teretz says it is Zman-oriented. So the Rosh holds, you know why it's a Zman grama? The fact that a Beged Laila's pata makes it a Zman grama. Okay, so now we have this wonderful sugya, let's apply this to Maisa. So let's start with an interesting question, and that is, of course, we can begin Maisa. Like the Rambam, what we did last night at 8 o'clock, we're not wearing a mitzvah tzitzis. We're doing like the Rosh, fine. Now let's go a day earlier. Like the Rambam, Friday night, 8 o'clock, which is way beyond Zman, even according to Rabbeinu Tam. And let's say you live in a place, there's no Erev. Are you allowed to wear tzitzis at night? Like the Rosh, you have a mitzvah deraisa, so you're great. Like the Rambam, there's no such mitzvah. So I'm not asking for us. Let's say you go knock on the Rambam's door. I hold like you. Should I wear tzitzis at Shabbos? Like the Rambam, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. It's not a mitzvah. And in fact, the Gemara says, if you wear pasal tzitzis, you're chayav chatas al tzaitzah. So why is there no problem of haitzah every night that you wear, every Friday night that you wear tzitzis like the Rambam? But that can't be true, because the same Rambam, the next halacha ches, you're allowed to wear tzitzis at night. Obviously, he's not worried about Bal Taisa. We'll soon see why. And you're allowed to wear tzitzis on Friday night. But he doesn't say why. Zok the Kesef Mishnah, that's the Beis Yosef Seif on the Rambam. This is the beauty of a beged that has tzitzis. Now, what does it mean to say? So the Chiluk L'chayr is Pashit. When you have a pasal pair of tzitzis, because one tore off, so it's dysfunctional tzitzis. They're worthless. I mean, they're worth a lot, but they're valueless as far as the mitzvah. So you're carrying something of no purpose. But when you wear a beged, a kosher tzitzis Friday night, in a few hours it's going to be very kosher. So it's a perfectly functional beged. Right now it's not a mitzvah, but it's a beged. So that's why you look in the Taz and see if Katnal, if he asked his kasha and answered to come out the same lashon without quoting the Kesef Mishnah. He says it's noya beged betachshita. So Lemaisa, it's clear that we do wear tzitzis Friday night like the Rambam. Okay, the Briskerov didn't, but that's a different reason. But for us, we're allowed to wear tzitzis like the Rambam even on Friday night. Now, question. I had this question a few years ago, but I'm happy I remembered it. It was Chos HaRabim. Someone showed me he had a reflector jacket. I think it was that Tzollah member. And he had an interesting type of jacket, not like our jackets. It was a reflector jacket that was worn at night, and it had 4 corners, real 4 corners. So he wanted to know if he's chayiv and tzitzis. So the emes is, this is a rare case of a beged laila worn at night, and you're patur l'chol hadayis, because this is a beged laila balayla. Now it's hard to find. Again, even pajamas, we have beged laila, but they don't have 4 corners. So we're going to try to find a few beged laila balayla. One of them is this reflector jacket. The only thing is, he said he wears it sometimes by day also as an ID, because there's a tzol in the back. So I said, now I have another. For that I have a different heter, which is not l'chol hadayis. But the emes is, Rav Moshe holds like this, and many others follow his psak, that a beged of man-made material, polyester, or any type of plastic that have these numerous different names, but if it's not a woven material, it's patur from tzitzis. That's probably why I should mention that polyester tzitzis are not l'chol hadayis. Some say not only you have no mitzvah, but you're making a bracha batala. Okay, some are making with polyester, especially today, it's a woven polyester. But I did say, like Rav Moshe, you're patur from tzitzis because this material happens to be a plastic type of material. Ma'aseh shahaya, true story, someone was dancing by a chasana, of course at night, and he was really getting into it, and one of the 4 tzitzis, the groups of the string of 8, the 8 strings on one side was torn off. So now he's dancing in the middle of the circle with 4 corners and only 3 tzitzis. See, had he been a big alamdin and tore off the entire kanaf, so gelungen. But now he has a chi of tzitzis, 4 corners, but it's pasla tzitzis. So the question is, does he have to take them off in the middle of the dancing? That would be interesting, simchas chas and v'kala, like a color would break in the middle of the dancing, but he's pulling off a tzitzis. What's the problem? It's pasla tzitzis. So this is a perfect nafkamina of our sugya. Like the Rambam, you could relax. There's no chiyuv wearing tzitzis at night. But like the Rosh, he's in big trouble. There's a beged yoim balayla. So I found the Pri Megadim in Mishptei Zahav Sivkat and Aleph, says in a few words. But he doesn't give us guidance what to do lamaisa, because pulling off your dalit kanfois, your beged of tzitzis, publicly is compromising on kvayt habriyas. But then again, we know the Gemara says that when someone has an issa deraisa, then ein eitzvein tfun. Okay, Shabbos, the Shulchan Aruch and Sif Yud Gimel is mekel. So I was thinking, this he doesn't speak about. Now, it could be you'll say, well, like the Rambam, it's no problem. But then again, like the Rosh, it's a safek deraisa. So if he's a mazel, he's wearing a cotton beged, which like the Machab at least is the Rabbanan. So now you have a safek derabanan. But l'chayra, if you like the Rosh, you really ask the Rosh this question, and you have a beged that's chayi midaraisa, l'chayra has to take it off, because the heta of kvayt habriyos does not apply. Common question, during the summer, especially this is negaya much more to the summer night, a very hot night, and he's taking a shower, but then he has a few more hours, he goes to sleep. So he wants to say, you know what, it's pretty hot outside, let me just keep off the tzitzis. I don't take off my tzitzis, but once it's off, do I have to put it on? So a perfect nafkamina of our shayla. Like the Rambam, there's no reason to put it back. But the point is, like the Rosh, so we have all the reasons to put it back. This is a beged yoim balayla. And again, it seems clear that like the Rosh, that it's totally in beged, so at night is the same mitzvah by day. In fact, the Beis Yosef in the end of Siman Ches says, if someone would put on a beged yoim balayla, like the Rosh, you make a bracha. It's only we're cheshvan shitas. But like the Rosh, I see no reason to think that a beged yoim balayla is any less mitzvah than a beged yoim b'yoim. So like the Rosh, put it back. Like the Rambam, there's no reason to. I'll ask you a second question. Let's say he didn't take a shower. It's just getting very hot and he can't be soivel, it's beged. Can he take off the tzitzis? Same shayla. But there's another fact here. Because l'chayri you'll say, well, what's the worst scenario? I take off my tzitzis. But I'm not wearing a beged of dalit kanfos without tzitzis. What's wrong? So I'm not wearing tzitzis. So a good question. But this is not the first person to think about it. The Gemara in Menachos Daf Mem Aleph tells a story. Rav Katina was once met a malach, literally an angel. And the malach said, Rav Katina, where's your tzitzis? She goes, well, I'm not wearing dalit kanfos. He goes, but where's your tzitzis? So he goes, why? Am I punished if I don't wear dalit kanfos? I'm part from tzitzis. Like if I don't find shluch hakan, I don't do shluch hakan. So Malach said, no. When it comes to tzitzis, if you don't go out of your way and put on a dalit kanfos, be'idna rischad is a punishment. And this is the famous sugya quoted by all the poskim, that even though a person technically could not wear tzitzis his whole life, he's not wearing dalit kanfos, especially our wardrobe, but we don't have dalit kanfos, but be'idna rischad is a problem. So my question is, does that apply at night during the summer? Actually, winter, summer, no chilik. L'chayra, like the Rosh, what's the difference? And besides that, Chacham leiv yikach mitzvahs and oyev mitzvahs la yizba mitzvahs, we daven every single day. Achay mitzvah tir doiv nafshi. So like the Rosh, the Chayra, don't take off, keep them on. This is what I said, and I saw the Buchacha in the end of Siman Chaf Aleph. Kamat says beferish. He doesn't spell out the word of idna rischa because he was very edel in his lashon, but he says, why should you mevatel a mitzvah, this mitzvah, and yesh chashash b'meniyah, which is a veiled way of saying that if you don't wear tzitz at night, when you could, then there's a problem of idna rischa. However, I must mention Rav Moshe and Yerdei Chelik Beis, the end of Kuf Lamed Zayin, was asked this very question, and he said that Avad you're allowed to put him back at night, there's no chashash bal Tosiv, but I can't say you have to, because there is no idna rischa if you don't wear tzitzis at night. Rav Sternbuch and Chelik Aleph, Yates, and Hey and Tes, both places also feels that there is no idna rischa by not wearing tzitzis at night. I'm not sure why. Moshe quotes a Bach, which is a big chiddush. The Bach, Taka says, is concerned about wearing tzitz at night because people think you're mechuyev, but we don't go like that, Bach. But one thing I will say, and that is that the Poskim seem to assume, like the Rosh, the same mitzvah that applies by day applies at night. You look in the Mishkanas Yaakov in Siman Ches, but I guess we could close this question with the words of the Heilig Chazon Ish in the letter Chelik Aleph in the Geras Siman Yud, and he writes it very matter-of-factly. Kishatizke l'kayim mitzvah tzitzis, when you're zoicha to do the mitzvahs, targish simcha mufraz, you should feel a exaggerated simcha, b'rikshay kodesh. Why? Likshar kesher shel kayama im atorv ha-mitzvah. When you're putting on tzitzis is, you're taking taryag mitzvahs, because tzitzis shkul connect taryag mitzvahs, and connecting it to yourself. V'lichrais ima bris oilamim. Beautiful lashon. Tzitzis is taryag mitzvahs, a kesher shel kayam with the Rebbeinu Shalom. So Lamaisa, we should cherish our tzitzis both day and night. Chacham levi kach mitzvahs. I hope there's no idna risk if you don't, like Ramosha, if those who don't wear it, but we definitely should say Chacham levi kach mitzvahs. A beged yoim balayla is no different like the Rosh than a beged yoim b'yoim. Someone asked an intelligent question. He played ball at night. The tzitzis that he was wearing were a little tschwitzt. So he wants to take a different beged yoim and put it on. The problem is, he can't make a bracha now, because it's not night. So maybe he's been going through a mitzvah without a bracha. And the famous Marshal's Tshuv and Siman Samaches, it's an Avain Gadol to do a mitzvah without a bracha. So I said, so what else do you want to do? So he said, I won't wear tzitzis. He said, that's a funny cheshvan. Because you're not mechuyev to make a bracha, midin Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch, you can't make a bracha. So what are you going to do? Not do a mitzvah? Put on the beged and don't make a bracha. And I looked into this, Chaim Kanievsky in the Das Noita, Ahmed Shin Chavtes, says, Avada, it's better put on without a bracha than not put on at all. So if someone wants to change for any reason his tzitzis by night into a different beged yom, do put it on without a bracha. But I want to make a point that it's not such a question is not so off track. Really, this is part of our share from a different angle. And that is the different minhagim regarding a shatz wearing a talis at night for Maariv. Is that an inyan or not? So the emes is, like the Rosh, is more than an inyan. Like the Rosh, the shatz is doing a mitzvah. In fact, if he wants to do a l'shem mitzvah and make a bracha, he could. But we don't make a bracha, l'didan. But the emes is the source of a shatz wearing a talis at night is not clear, but the Magen Avram in Simon Chesiv Cotton Bays, he says, Kala oiva lifnei ateva should wear a talis, and he has an interesting makar. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Yud Zayin Amud Bays, speaking about your Gimel Midas, Melamed shenisat v'kadosh baruch hu k'chatz, Bershtam Kaviyachol wore a talis, whatever that means, and he says, if you do the Gimel Midas, you'll always be answered. So the Magen Avram picked up on that nuance. Nisat v'kadosh baruch hu k'chatz. That means the mashal of wearing a talis is a shatz. So that's the makar of those that the shatz always wears a talis, shachris, mincha, and Maariv, because the shatz, his job is to wear a talis like the Rebbeinu Shalom. Okay. That's the minhag in many yeshivas. By Chassidim, minhag is not to wear for mincha or by Maariv, except, of course, Leil, Shabbos, and Yom Tov. What's interesting, the Prima Godim, and Mr. Burr quotes him as if cotton dalid. He says, if you're wearing a rok, a long jacket, you don't need a talis. I saw this by Tuvia Goldstein, this medrash, for many, many years. That was his minhag, that they didn't wear a talis at night. They wore an overcoat, a coat during the summer. They put it over their shoulders to have a rok. And Shari Aaron, in his Sefer on Archaim, says, by the Chazon Ish, you either wore a talis or a long jacket. So I'm thinking the little shitasa here. Chassidim that anyway wear a longer rekel, you don't need a talis. In the yeshivas that they have short jackets, so they need a talis to Maariv. That might be true. But anyhow, my point is a little different. The Lavush in Tov Kuf Peyalef, the Mr. Burr quotes him as if cotton vav. He says, when it comes slichas time, we always wear a talis. Everybody, why? What's up? It's 1 a.m. wearing a talis? Because this is the real Gemara. So he says, Zok the Lavush, so you put on a talis and don't make a bracha, because it's night. So up to Taz, I have a problem with that. You're putting on a talis at night, you're running into a bracha. light the Magen Avram, it's at Beged Sheyayim. Light the Rosh is Beged Sheyayim. So Zok the Taz have a better idea. You shots borrow talis from someone else. Talis she'ula is not chayiv in a bracha. So this way avoid the problem. Now, but there's a bigger problem now. So now the shots isn't doing no mitzvah. If he wears his own talis, he's doing a mitzvah, beged yoim, balayla. But apparently, the Taz felt better don't do a mitzvah than do a mitzvah without a bracha. So it could be this question that we mentioned, the Levush says, wear your talis, but don't make a bracha. And the Taz says, better get a matzah, there's no chiyuv bracha at all. Now the Emma says, we wear a talis at night, no one does it l'shem mitzvah, but it's a little question mark, why not? Why not get a mitzvah? But we don't change the minhag. Okay. Next question is, Negeya, Leil Yom Kippur, and Eretz Yisrael could be Negeya every Friday night. And that is it ever mutter to make a bracha after shkia, what we call bein hashmashos? So typically we don't ever have that question. But Leil Yom Kippur, we make a bracha on the talis Yom Kippur, Leil, they say Leil Kol Nidrei. And some people who are late the whole year, Yom Kippur is no different. They come running in a few minutes after shkia, oh, can I make a bracha? In Eretz Yisrael, in some kehilas, not all, the minhag is to wear talis Friday night. And again, the same question, if he comes late, can you make a bracha after shkia? So the emes is, for those that feel that shkia is the cutoff point, and they would not daven mincha after shkia, so how can you make a bracha after shkia? It's the same suffix Laila. But that's hardly convincing. Because regarding tzitzis, it's not a din in Laila. The real ptur is prat l'ksus Laila, number one, or re'isa moisei. So who said it's totally in Yom V'Laila? Again, the lashon of Laila's mitzvah is not a Gemara. It's the Rashi and the Torah. But definitely the focus is their visibility. A few minutes after shkia, you clearly could differentiate between talis and lavan. It's maybe suffix Laila. Who cares about Laila? The question is, do you have mishayakir or not? And that is klar. And I'll tell you why. The biggest raya is, what is the earliest man to make a bracha, put on tzitzis in the morning? So we would say, well, day starts by alois. But we're chosh, like the Mishnah Megillah Daf Chav, we like to start do mitzvahs by nets. So either it's alois or nets. But you know what the emes is? Both are wrong. We pass, what's this man? Mishayakir. We'll soon see that's the halach in Shulchan Aruch. Why? Because it's not totally in day or night. It's totally in visibility. So Mishayakir is a deciding factor. So if that's the case regarding early morning, why shouldn't it be the case regarding evening? And who says it's not me? That's what all the Paiskim say. The Machab and Yudches Gimel says you make a bracha Mishayakir. Okay, the Ramah says B'di'evet Alois is good. We'll soon get back to that. But Zok the Magen Avram, on what the Machab says, Mishayakir is the time to make a bracha by day. V'nirali huadin bo'erev ad seis hakichavim. Now, if you don't know the sugi, you're wondering, what's the shaykhis? Mishayakir and seis? Zok the Machshekel, it's Masik Midvash. Just like you make the Zman in the morning is Mishayakir, because it's totally in Re'iyah. So at night it's not totally in Shkia, it's totally in visibility. Re'isa Moisei. So now we have a pretty nice extension of the Zman of making a bracha on Tzitzis. Even if you're makbid, you wouldn't have mincha after Shkia. But now it's still Re'isa Moisei. In fact, the Har-Tzvi discusses this, but if you want to see it, it's fascinating. In Siman Yud Beis, he quotes what's officially Rashi and Sefer Pardes, that if you have a well-lit room at night, you can make a bracha at night. Now, of course, it can be, but that's what Rashi says. But definitely, when there's visibility, there's no problem. However, what's interesting is, and this is how you see how wide it is, Kiva Ege asks a bigger question. He says, I don't see the analogy between morning and night, because Amoid HaShacha is considered day Medina. That's why Mishayakir works. But Bein HaShmashos is suffix Laila. So how could you say you make a bracha Alois and Huadin after Shkia? But it's not true. After Shkia is already suffix Laila. Zokti Pekiveiga, golden Yisoid. You're right. It's a suffix Laila. But you know something? According to the Rosh, it's a Vadei bracha. So now we have two tzad to make a bracha. Suffix Yoim, suffix Laila, and suffix Rosh, suffix Rambam. So you make a bracha taka during Bein Hashmashos, als svek sveika lahakol. So every time you touch a tzitzis at night, it's a suffix mechuyev midaraisa. And that's music to our ears. So therefore, l'chayra, the latecomers have a little, easy street on Leil Yom Kippur. Until it's Laila, Bein Hashmashos is fine. However, the Mishnah Berurah does mention the Matafrayim. That was Klal Yisrael's place, especially in Yanei of the Yom Neroyim. And in Tafresh Yates, Siv Zayin, he says, put on talis mi boy joim. If it's Bein Hashmashos, don't make a bracha. Why? So you look at the Ktsei Hamata. The Ktsei Hamata says that really, Al Pisoid, we'll soon see, Al Pi Arizal, you never wear a talis at night. We'll soon see, it's like interesting that Al Pisoid, never to wear a talis at night. But Zicha don't make a bracha. For Yom Kippur night talis. But the minhag is to do it. Havud leila haisif. Don't get carried away. We have to struggle to figure out the minhag making a bracha on talis Yom Kippur. But we do it. But if we do it right. Before shkia or nothing. And that's the way the Aruch HaShulchan paskins, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, I saw the Kavachayim. After shkia, no bracha. The Mishnah Berurah seems to agree to him. And he says, if you have a suffix, if it's Bein Hashmashos, then maybe you can make a bracha. But Rabbi say, for out this reason, you have to be on time every day of the year, but especially Erev Yom Kippur. People come running in late. It's something that's really a big tzarachi in Gadol. But one thing we'll say, if b'diavad a person came late, if it's a suffix Bein Hashmashos, l'halacha, you're allowed to make a bracha. Once it's Bein Hashmashos mamish, I would think not to make a bracha, because that's the psak of Mishnah Berurah based on Matafrayim. Now, Lamaisa, as I said, the inyan of wearing a talis at night, the Sharet Tshuva, Sivkat and Aleph, quotes the Mikubalim, Birkei Yosef, Arizal, Zoya. It's interesting. The Eshel Avram, Oppenheim, it's printed in the Friedman Shulchan Aruch. He says, those that were matir people to make a bracha and wear talis Friday night, leholchu or, they never saw the light of day. It seems al pi Kabbalah, at least from one angle, you never wear talis at night. V'chein das hazoya, a Rambam, the Ramban, and that's why most of us don't wear talis Friday night on Leil Shabbos. It's based on this Kabbalah. However, understandably so, those that wear it know what they're doing. But Lamaisa, once we have Yom Kippur as the Chiddush, so do it right, and only make a bracha, be careful to make a bracha before the shkia. The Magen Avram does say that even the Mekubalim insist not to, but Yom Kippur there's more of a reason to wear talis at night. Lidamais lemalachim, like the famous Pirkei Eliezer, we do many things to be like a malach. One of them is to wear white. So in other words, Yom Kippur is a chiddush. At least if we do it, we should do it right. Now, some people are concerned because they have to still drive to get to their place where they daven. They don't want to make Yom Kippur, but there's nothing to do with anything. You can make a bracha on the talis at home before you get into your car. It's not mekabel tisefes Yom Kippurim. You're not making shechianu, and then drive with the talis. Without talis, there's no chilik. But make a bracha as soon as you can when it's close to shkia, and then you have nothing to worry about as far as the bracha is concerned. Ma'aseh shahaya, Mr. Berurah and Sivkat and you discussed this. Someone confused the time, and early morning, actually too early morning, he made a bracha on his talis. Does he have to repeat the bracha when it comes alois? He made it before alois even. Zok the Mr. Berurah, no, b'di'eved, the bracha is good. Now what I think he's saying is, pashit, because you can't forget that the Rosh, let him make a bracha. So you shouldn't do it. But if you made it, you can't say it's Vadei Pasul. So look how he's being soimach on the Rosh. Rabbi Kiveig is soimach on the Rosh to make a bracha svek sveika. Now we see Mishnah Berurah to be soimach on the Rosh. We made a bracha before Alois, b'di'eved, yayoitz. Now this leads us to a different interesting question, and that is, especially during the summer. But the emphasis in times of the Gemara, they daven Maariv early every night. So here's the next question, which seems to be a non-issue. Let's say I daven Maariv early, whether it's Erev Shabbos or during the week when they did today, rather we don't, la halacha, this problems, but you did early Maariv, a Tuesday night, okay? Fine. Now, and at 7:30, finish Maariv. And this is a strange fellow. he realized after he davened Maariv that he forgot to put on talis and tefillin today. How that happens, only the Baruch Shem knows, but it happened. So someone asked Trumas Hadeshen in Chelik Beis Kuf Chalef, what do I do? It's 7:30 p.m., broad daylight, an hour before shkia, but he davened Maariv. His location is after Maariv, but he didn't put on talis and tefillin. So the Trumas Hadeshen says after Maariv is considered Laila. No talis and no tefillin at night. That's what he wants to say. Now this is a big chiddush, because we once spoke about the early Shabbos, and basically we said, which is Pashut, that even if you could turn Friday into Shabbos, and you could make Kiddush and daven Shabbos davening, but it's not Laila. Varaya, you're not Yoitza with the Krishma, you say early. You can't say Svira after Maariv at 7:30, because it's not Laila. It's Shabbos, but not Laila. A bar mitzvah boy does not become a mitzvah when he makes early Shabbos until it's Laila. And that's why the Maril, contemporary and a bar plukta of the Trumas Hadeshen, in Siman Kufnan Zayin, he takes exception to this Trumas Hadeshen. He says, you daven Maariv because you hold like the Yehuda, this man is plag. But it's not Laila, it's not darkness, it's not Achsarn of Re'isa Moisai. And it's interesting that the Chor of the Maril is 100% right. Because we paskin, it's Zman Maariv perhaps, and not Laila. However, the Ramah in Yudches Aleph says after you daven Maariv early, don't make a bracha on the talis, like Trumas Hadeshen. Now that's a halbatzar. In the end of Siman Lamed, Hilchos Tefillin, he again quotes this Trumas Hadeshen, it's all one tshuva, that if you didn't put on tefillin and you daven Maariv, too late, no tefillin. So the Mishnah, no, that's going too far. You want to be machmir like Trumas Hadeshen and consider it lie and not make a bracha on the talis? No. But to tell a person to be like a kaflei manach tefillin, that's going too far. So the point I think we have to say is, the Trumas Hadeshen holds after Maariv, it's Laila. We accept that l'chumra, but not l'kula. And why do I stress this? I once had this shayla and it warmed my heart. You see a bracha, the thinking bracha. It was in camp where we make early Shabbos. I remember it was 8:20 p.m., of course. We already finished Maariv. We already started going to the Suda. And a bracha asked me that he always puts on his Shabbos Tzitzis Friday afternoon, makes a bracha on them. This Friday afternoon, he forgot to do it. Now he wants to put it on. It was 8:20. I looked at the clock. It was the shkia that day was 8:35. It was 15 minutes before shkia. Can he put on his Shabbos Tzitzis and make a bracha? So I told him, you mechaven to a Trumas Hadeshen, Shulchan Aruch, Ramah. Avadi allowed to put it on. Because again, even Trumas Hadeshen says you're allowed to put it on. But no bracha. This is mamish, a living example of Trumas Hadeshen. This is klar, and I'll tell you, this is another reason perhaps that Erev Yom Kippur to be on time. Because if someone, typically, we're all makabel teisefes Yom Kippurim, that's a mitzvah deraisa, chol. If you're makabel teisefes Yom Kippurim, and you're meant to make it Yom Kippur, it might be already like the Trumas Hadeshen's understanding the next day. I mean, it could be mechalek with the Maariv or Tesefes. But if you said Shechiyanu, especially if you're a person that lights, and said Shechiyanu in Zin to have in mind Yom Kippur coming, it's a problem making a bracha on the talis, even if it's day, because like the Trumas Hadeshen, it's the next day. So for any reason, make sure you're on time for Yom Kippur. But I'll tell you another Ma'aser Shehoyis Negeya to, I think, everybody that makes early Shabbos. When I brought my oldest son, and in camp where I go to, we made early Shabbos. So I realized it was the first we ever saw daven Maariv. He was a young child, 7 years old, and he davened Maariv because it was 7:30. Why not? When he came to say Krishma, he took out his tzitzis and started kissing them. And people gave me dirty looks like, don't you train your child? Why are you kissing tzitzis? Who doesn't know you don't kiss tzitzis at night? But the emes is, my son is probably right. Because 7:30, an hour before shkia, is Vade Risa Moisai. What do you have against your tzitzis? So the teretz probably is that if you're not yoitzu with this krishma, so what are you kissing them? I mean, it's not a seres adibris, a tzitzis. It's probably totally in being yoitzu with the krishma. Now, what I was thinking is that if that's the case, for those that daven Shabbos, even weekdays, after the man krishma, and the same way they say krishma before davening, when they say Krishma with talis and tefillin, they should not be kissing their tzitzis because they're not yoitz with that Krishma. But the emes could be, like the Trumas Hadeshen, our minhag has some more understanding. Because the Trumas Hadeshen says when you daven Maariv, it's considered Laila. If you look in Shulchan Aruch, the end of Reish Samach Aleph, he says when you said Baruch Hu, it's considered Shabbos. In other words, Baruch Hu is enough of Maariv to make it the next day. So it could be like the Shumas Hadesh's understanding that after Baruch Hu, there's no longer the mitzvah of Tzitzis. So at least we honor that, we don't make a bracha on it, and maybe we don't kiss the Tzitzis. Okay. A very important question again for all of us, and that is, should a person sleep at night with the Tzitzis? For some people, I never heard of this. Some people, I do it all the time. Let me try to explain why we have that different reaction. The emes is, during the winter, again from 5:30, let's say till go to sleep 12:30, you have 7 hours that you're wearing a tzitzis. Can I ask you why? Answer, what do you mean why? Like the Rosh, I have a kiyum mitzvah. Wonderful. So obviously, like the Rosh, beged yoim b'layla has the same mitzvah. Now you're going to sleep at 12:30. What changed? Why take off the tzitzis? It's the same mitzvah. And the emes is, you look at the Rabbi Kiveg and Siman Chaf Aleph. We'll soon see what's going on the Magen Avram, the Arizal. He says it's klar that at night when you sleep with a beged yoim, you have the kiyum mitzvah like the Rosh. You'll see it ayin sham. But the emes is, it could be even like the Rambam, there's an halachic benefit to sleep with tzitzis. Because most people, I guess this olam here probably is part of the miyut, but when I talk in yeshiva, I tell them this and they know what I'm talking about. It says, we in yeshiva, we don't know what it means, 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, those unexplored hours for us. But most people do not get up early morning. They get up, 8 o'clock, hopefully. Now, from this man mishayakir until 8 o'clock is a man of tzitzis. So if you hold that when you wear tzitzis when you sleep, you're mekayim a mitzvah, so the entire sleep is a mitzvah. Like the Rosh, the chunk of the night is a mitzvah. Even like the Rambam, and certainly the Rosh, from mishayakir until you wake up is also a mitzvah. So why not wear tzitzis? If you're wearing it from 5:30 to 12:30, why not 12:30 to 8 o'clock? Oh, you'll say, what are you talking about? When I go from 5:30 to 12:30, I'm awake. I'm chayiv and mitzvah, bar chiyuva. Who said when I go to sleep and I'm sleeping, I'm a bar chiyuva? So the emes is, sukkah yoichiach l'chayra. We sleep in the sukkah for what reason? Because the yashen is chayiv and mitzvahs. Okay, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Alecha Shlomo in the end of Tefillah, Amid Shin Lamed Hey, has a beautiful shtickle, and he develops the theme that a yashen is potter from mitzvahs. Sukkah is only to go to sleep in the sukkah. But his feeling is there's no kiyum mitzvahs when you're asleep. But before him, the Stechemed writes this in Chelik Gimel, page 60. He says, Yashen is chayiv in mitzvahs, and Ikke mitzvah sheina yoichiach. And he says, mamish, something that Rabbi Zalman discusses, but he says a different conclusion. If someone is comfortably sleeping in the sukkah, and you carry him out because you want to sleep in his place, you mavatal that yid from the mitzvah of sukkah that he could have been slept the whole night. Rabbi Zalman said, you're allowed to take him out Lekhtchila, because Yashen is potter, and he says, pum fakert. But we could do much, much better. Because the Gemara Menachos Mem Gimel Amud Beis tells the famous story that when David was in the Merchatz and he was Aram, he was disturbed because I'm Aram and I'm mitzvahs, until he realized he has a Mila, which is an ongoing mitzvah. Freg Dariya Kaddish, quoted by the Magen Avram, Sif Cotton Beis, why was he only worried in the Merchatz? And what about when he went to sleep at night? Zok Rizal from the Gemara is Muchach, sleeping with tzitzis is a mitzvah. So therefore, when he slept, he wasn't worried. It was only in the Merchatz without the talis that he was worried. Comes again the Magen Avram, after he quotes the Arizal, he goes, listen, Im halacha nekabel. I mean, I'm not arguing with Arizal, but what's the raya? Maybe he was comfortable to sleep at night because he had a mezuzah on his door. But not that tzitzis you sleep at night. But what do we see? Both Magen Avram and Arizal assume that a Yashen is doing a mitzvah. The only question is, which mitzvah are you doing? Tzitzis or mezuzah? So here we have an Arizal and a Magen Avram that a Yashen is chayiv a mitzvah. Now Avad, you'll say, how could I have kavanah when I'm asleep? So I'll answer you, and how do you have a kavanah right now? Are you thinking about tzitzis right now? I don't think so. Teretz is, when I put it on l'shem mitzvah, the kavanah goes the whole day. So if it goes all day, it goes at night. Now, I did see the Netziv in Meishav Dava. He argues on both Arizal and Magen Avram. And he says, a sleeping person is never chayiv in mitzvahs. It was only in the merchatz that he was awake that he was worried about it. But l'maisa loit the Arizal and Magen Avram, we have a reason to sleep in tzitzis mi iked din al tkiyam mitzvah. Not only al shmir, like we'll soon see, al tkiyam mitzvah. The chunk of the night is the rush. The morning until he wakes up is the Rambam and rush. And that's why Rabbi Yashiv and Rav Scheinberg recommended sleeping in tzitzis. However, poik chazim ayama debar, as early as a mashmois of Shulchan Aruch that Yidden did not sleep in tzitzis. Because in Siv Ches, Zok the Mechaba, when you wake up, you put on your tzitzis, you make a bracha. Zok the Shari Tshuva, Muchach, that the derech was not to sleep in tzitzis. Why are you making a bracha now? I thought you were sleeping the whole night at it. The Orchos Rabbeinu quotes Chazinish and Steipler, and I saw Rav Sternbuch quotes the Brisker Rav, that did not sleep in the tzitzis. So if you don't sleep in the tzitzis, you're in good company, don't worry. The question is, our taina, lahalocha, what happened to that taina? So maybe hold like the Netziv, that there's no kiyam mitzvah, okay, then there's no reason to. The emes is, some people say it's a bezoyin to sleep in tzitzis. So the emes Ramah in Siman Chaf Aleph says this and rejects it, and the Svar is Pashit. If that's the mitzvah, it's not bezoyin. You know, imagine someone buys a beautiful haishanis and he refuses to clap them. You ask him why? Because it's a bezoyin. That's the mitzvah, no? I mean, you're allowed to go into a Beis HaKisei with the talis cotton, because that's the derech. So to call it a bezoyin is wrong. You know, some bachim, they say it's a bezoyin for me to play ball with my talis cotton. I says, no, play ball with the talis cotton, and the bezoyin is if you don't wash them. That's the bezoyin. But why can you, if that's part of wearing tzitzis? Now, Lamaisa, the Shulchan HaTorah, the Kamana, was a Malach Alikim. In Siman Chaf Aleph, he says, never sleep with the tzitzis that you wore a whole day, because it's a bezoyin. So he's basically arguing on the Ramah, but that's what he says. Maybe you'll accept Abshalom Bezalman like the Netziv. What I saw a big chiddush, again, this is a Shulchan HaTorah l'shitasei. He says the Arizal was a kedushasei, kedushas chayes, and mekaydesh, esrafim, like unbelievable things about the Arizal. If you have his kedusha, you could sleep in your tzitzis. But for the rest of us, we rely on the mezuzah being our shmira. So obviously the Shulchan HaTorah was not convinced about sleeping with tzitzis. So I'll say, Eilu ve'eilu divra lekim chayim. Now, people ask, if I sleep in my tzitzis, I have another problem. What about a bracha in the morning? If I wake up in the morning, I can't just take it off, make a bracha, and put it on. I'm wearing it the whole night. So first of all, married people that make a bracha on talis gadol don't make a talis cotton. Some chassidim never make a bracha on talis cotton. But besides that, and if there's no bracha, is was, I'm a chayiv. You're wearing it straight. The person sits in the sukkah 8 days and doesn't go out. He davens and eats everything in the sukkah. It makes anything problem? But the emes is I have a simple eight, so that's what my children do. I buy them 2 talis cotton for the weekday, 1 for Shabbos, but 2 for the weekday. They make a bracha Sunday morning when they take off the Shabbos beged, put on the weekday beged on Sunday morning. Monday morning they put on the Monday beged. Now it's not going to go on the whole week. Tuesday they put on the Sunday beged. So every day you could change begadim and make a bracha legitimately. It's not a goren bracha, it's a new beged. But again, the bracha is not ma'akev here. Now, the only chiddush that we have to try to understand is many people have a minute sleep in the tzitzis, but it's what's called shlaf tzitzis. They designate special tzitzis at night. Now, the question is, you're losing a lot with that. Because if, lamaisa, we understand when you sleep in tzitzis, like the Rosh, and even like the Rambam, you have the whole night of kiyam mitzvah, shlaf tzitzis are mamish beged laila. Now some bachim, especially bachim, say, what do you mean? But I sleep so long by day. They get in, the waking hour is, early afternoon. But the truth is that's wrong. Because shlaf tzitzis yechiach, it's made for sleeping. Now sleeping a little bit in the day, it doesn't make it into day tzitzis. Chaim Kanievsky said beferish, if you have a shlaf tzitzis, it's really purposeless because it's the fact you might sleep beyond Mishiakir doesn't change its identity as shlaf tzitzis. So Lamaisa, I saw a very convincing, Das Noite, in Amachin Samach Zayin, Verach David, Chelik Aleph, Siman Vav, and the emphasis, you look at the Lashon of the Arizal, the Makar of sleeping in tzitzis, he says he didn't take off the talis hamayuchad light when he went to sleep. So the Arizal certainly wore the beit tzitzis by night. But again, Poik Chazim Ayam Debar, many Yidden have a special shlaf tzitzis. Maybe because they're uncomfortable wearing wool at night, they wear cotton. That's what I heard one svara. Rav Vosden Chelik Vav Simen Nun, he has another problem. Because if it's a shlaf tzitzis only at night, so it's really like the Rambam, it's not even a ma'aseh mitzvah. So what kind of shmir do you have if it's not a ma'aseh mitzvah? And even like the Rosh, divided to beged Laila, so it's not a real mitzvah. So he says that the mitzvah, the chefza, the mitzvah of tzitzis has a skula. In Chelik Yud Simen Beis, he says, Libi oimeli, that it's only a midas chasidus, so it's enough to have any type of beged. Now, no one's saying dafka to wear shlaf tzitzis, except the command in Shulchan Aruch. And Siman Yud Ches, he says, don't wear the regular tzitzis, the bezoyim, dafka wear a shlaf tzitzis. So again, like everything else, we see the yoifi of elu ve'elu divra lekem chayim. Some people don't sleep at all. Some people sleep with regular tzitzis, and some people have a shlaf tzitzis. Who's right? The ones that follow their minhag. And I told the Bachram that don't go home and say, you got to buy me another pair of tzitzis, I want to sleep at night, because you follow your father's minhag. So if they did come home at night and tell you differently, I tell you right now, I told them not to. Because each minhag, every minhag has a makar and halach. A few assorted questions you might find interesting, I certainly did. Why isn't a blanket that has dal kanfais mechuyev and tzitzis? So for us, it's pashta teretz. A blanket is a ksus laila, all shitas. But the issue is when a blanket that's used by day, for example, someone that either sleeps at work and it has an office, or a younger man in koila sleeps in a dorm in the afternoon and he has his own blanket, and it's a blanket, hamayuchad liyoim. Bekitz is someone that sleeps by day with a blanket, hamayuchad liyoim. So the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Yud Ches Siv Beis says that we don't put on a tzitzis on a blanket, Zok the Magen Avraham, because it's a beged laila. But let's say it's a beged yoim, so the Magen Avraham struggles with this. At the end he says, Lamaisa, make one of the four corners ice corner. In other words, round off one of the corners, so you have three corners. So like the people that wear a frock do that, they round off one of the corners, make the blanket that only has three corners. And the Mishnah quotes this Magen Avraham, that if you have a blanket, hamayuchid liyoim, now you're all wondering, but I don't wear it. But the pasuk does not say wear it. What does the pasuk say? Asher techase boy. Lamaisa, the Mishnah says, if you have a wool blanket by day, you should round off one of the corners. The Chazei Nish in Gimel Lamed Vav says the minhag is not like that, and we typically do not round off the corner, because even though Ash techase boy, but this is like ha'allah, this is a different level, it's like putting on top of you. But what's interesting was that the Din of Anhagis in Perik Beis, Tez Zayin, quotes the minhag of the Chazei Nish that he rounded off the fourth corner of his blanket. So it seemed to be he didn't follow his own psak. But I saw Reb Chaim Yevsi explain the Chazon Ish was often cold by day, so he would take the blanket and wrap himself around like a sweater. So that was a derech levisha, or at least the ashtechasa, but it wasn't just halah. But lamaisa, a blanket that's even a yuchid liyoim l'chayra should not be a problem. I wonder every year Tisha B'Av, because those are daven mincha before shkia, and you feel like you lost a lot of time with the heilig talis and tefillin. Is it an inyan? You have to take it off by shkia promptly, because we don't wear talis and tefillin at night. So the emphasis is al pi halacha by talis, there's certainly no problem, because we wear it on Yom Kippur. What's wrong? I mean, you're not mechuyev to wear it, but there's nothing wrong wearing it after shkia. The issue more is by tefillin after shkia. So the emphasis in Shulchan Aruch, I told you earlier, in Siman Lamed Siv Beis says, we ikridin laila zman tefillin. It's just shem yafiach behem. So therefore, it's not, and that's why the Paiskim all say, if you wear it into the night, it's not geferlich, because you're not falling asleep, there's no chashash shafacha. Mitzad halacha, you're allowed to go beyond shkia, both talis and tefillin. The Sharet Tshuva, in Sif Katan Beis, Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Tezvav, quote, Arizal hayaniza ma'oid l'choltzam achashkia. So the Arizal, basically, like halacha, but that was typical Arizal, what he felt that's wrong to do, after shkia, ma'oid, take off the tefillin. So people that follow halacha keep them on a few minutes, al pi Arizal, dafka take it off. The earliest time to make a bracha and put on talis in the morning is negeah, many people shvuas morning, but for working people, it's negeah every single day. But now, it's even more so. I want to tell you, now it's a problem not only with the talis, but with the tzitzis. Some people, they daven, they learn for 2 hours, they daven after Misha Yakir. Well, but they put on the talis cotton, if they make a bracha, make sure it's Mishiakir. They get up before 5 o'clock. Now, Mishiakir is late because Netz is so late. So we're talking about talis, tzitzis, or talis. What is the earliest Zman? So that we saw the Shulchan Aruch says Mishiakir. Now, there's so many shittas, but I think the two main shittas are either an hour before Netz or 52 minutes before Netz. Some say even 40 minutes before Netz. But one thing I will say, that B'di'evet Alois HaShach is also a Zman, but before Mishiakir, before Alois, not talis, and not even talis cotton, and this time of the year, it's very negaya. I would be remiss in not mentioning a question that people ask. If I make my own tzitzis, in other words, I buy a beged, and I buy the strings, and I make my own, can I make tzitzis at night? We say in Yiddish, bin the tzitzis, can I attach the tzitzis to the beged? So you're wondering, why not? So now we have a problem. Because if we go Laila Lav's man tzitzis, maybe Sokta Prima Godim, in Sif Cotton Aleph, Mishul Zahav, maybe there's a problem of tasse v'loy min ha'asui. I'm making it at the wrong time. So the emes is, this is hard to understand. First of all, light the rosh, it's a beged yom. But more so, and all the place can take strong exception to the Prima Godim. You're not allowed to build a sukkah before sukkahs. You have to wait to Yom Tov to build the sukkah, which you can't even do. If you have a problem with the asiyah, taase, okay, there's no problem with the asiyah, it's the zman. In fact, the Chazon Ish was surprised that the Prima Godim said such a thing. The Chavetz Chaim said, you can't make your own halachas. So halacha l'maisa avad it's mutter. Now, but when someone asks me, I'm making my own tzitzis, I want to have every hiddah, is there a hiddah to make it by day? The answer is yes. Because Prima Godim had a suffix, and some go to Prima Godim. But if you start it by day, and it goes a few minutes after shkia, nishkefer l'chol days, because that's still a man tzitzis. Really interesting question. Someone had, this is a story, he danced, played ball at night, very fashvitzed. Lamaisa, he had no other tzitzis, but a shlaf tzitzis. And he has a real shlaf tzitzis. So he wanted to know, could he put on his shlaf tzitzis instead of the regular tzitzis? The question was at night, or maybe even by day. He played ball by day, he has no other tzitzis, he wants to put on the shlaf tzitzis. So I told him, by day, I don't advise you putting your shlaf tzitzis. Because if that is the way you tell me it's a beged laila, so a beged laila, by yoim, like the Rosh is potter. So he said, okay, I have a good idea. From now on, I'm miyachid l'shem yichud kutsh b'richu, a real yichud, I make it into a beged yoim, and I'm going to wear it by day. I says, oh, now you gave me schayr. Because the same Prima Godim has this very shaila about taking a beged laila and making it into a beged yoim, and he says there could be a problem of tasse v'loy min ha'asui, which is also a plea de chiddush. Because if you made it originally as a regular beged, what is it for? A beged yoim. So there's no tasse v'loy min ha'asui. It's only if you made it as a beged laila, very strange, you made it as a beged laila, I mean all the commercial tzitzis are beged yoim. The Ma'aseh, that's interesting, ha'oram. But if he made it into a beged laila, it might be tasse v'loy min ha'asui, and even that, there's no problem with the asiyah. But last but not least, something to think about, love to hear more about this. Let's say us tonight or last night at 8 o'clock. What were you thinking when you're wearing your tzitzis? I don't want to get personal, but were you thinking, I'm doing a mitzvah like the Rosh? True. But then you like the Rambam, then you're about Tzitzis. Rambam's allowed to wear it, but not the Shem mitzvah. So what do you do when you're wearing tzitzis at night and during the winter from 5:30 till you go to sleep? Va'oid, when you take it off to take a shower and put it back, what are you thinking? Are you thinking l'shem mitzvah? That might be Bal Tosiv. What are you doing? What do we think when we wear tzitzis at night? Whether putting it on or keeping it on? So it came to my mind, what did Yidden do when they put on Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin? Like the Shulchan Aruch says in Lamed Beis, make it tonight. But that's different, because there, one of them is right. Here, like the Rosh, the Shulchan Aruch acknowledges the Rosh. Do we do like we do when we wear tefillin in the morning? Chalamoyed, Lamed Aleph Ches, Mr. Brewer says, make it tonight. Or maybe we do like we do when we sit in the Sukkah Shmini Atzeres. Zok Sharatzin and Tofresh Sambaches, Sif Cotton Dalid, when we sit in the Sukkah Shmini Atzeres, we don't have to make it tonight. If the halacha is amachuyev, yes. If not, it's doing nothing. Because if the halacha is to Yusuvi Asvinon, then it's not Bal Tosiv. So I would think that's the right answer. We're doing it because our Shulchan Aruch says we go with both shitas. So do you have to make it Tanai? Dr. Chaim Kanievsky, no, and I think this is the reason why. I'm doing it because there's a Safek mitzvah deraisa. The Baruch know that if it's not a mitzvah, I don't make Bal Taisif. So it's probably an unspoken Tanai, but I'm doing the Shem mitzvah gemur like the Rosh. And if Rashi and the Ben Tamar and Rashi and the Rambam are right, it's only just I'm doing it to be Yitzhak the minhag, and there's no Bal Taisif. I can talk to you.
Shem Irgendshir, I'd like to give a big shkia to Smith for today's shir. I'd give a big shkia to Chaim Kaufman for sponsoring today's shir, Lili Nishmas. Oviv, Rabbi Romzev, Rabbi Chaim Maariv, Zerina Bracha, regular yard size, today's Zion Cheshvan, Nishmas, Tzura, B'Tzara Chaim, to have the great schus of sponsoring a shir. Please call Irgendshir at 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Chananya ben Akashim, Ratzak Kadosh Baruch Hu Lezakis, Es Yisrael Figure Hibnum Torah Mitzvah Shenem Al Enoi Chofetz Leman Tzidka Yagdol Torah V'Yader.
Hey.
Vote.
Hey.
I should mention that when you change the Kubit Shabbos and you put on, but you should have to make a bracha.
I said, the bracha always makes the bracha.
Sikkim, Rabbi say. Sikkim, okay.
That's the Rebbe Tam.
Okay, Rabbi say, Lila's man Tzittis, but now this man is for the Sikkim of the shir.
Just the chazot we learned today, Baruch Hashem, we covered a lot. We paskin Laila lavs man Tzitzis, but it's really Re'isa Moisai is the deciding factor. And that's why women are potter, it's a Zman Grama, because the Zman is Goyim, night versus day, but it's Lav Dafka Laila, it's a din of Re'isa Moisai, which typically at night there's no Re'isa Moisai. But the fundamental question, the Rambam holds that Laila lavs man Tzitzis means the time. Night is not a mitzvah, like Mila is no mitzvah at night. The Rosh holds that the beged of night is potter, but a beged yoim at night has the full-fledged chiyuv of tzitzis. We have two great rishonim, we accepted both, and we're machm on both ends. We only make a bracha on a beged yoim by day, but we don't wear a beged yoim by laila or a beged laila by yoim to honor both shitas. It's mutter to wear tzitzis on Shabbos, even like the Rambam at night, because it's still a functional beged. Just now, there's no mitzvah. There's no Bal Taisif, even like the Rambam, because you're not doing it l'shem mitzvah. A reflector jacket that has four corners either is potter because it's a beged yoim, or it's a plastic and non-woven material. If a tzitzit got tore, one tzitzit got tore off and you have four corners still, so, like the Rosh, it might be an Indian to take off the tzitzis right away, even though it might compromise somewhat on Kvayt HaBriyas. Rather, the real Kvayt HaBriyas was you have to get undressed to take off the tzitzis. Today, just taking off the talis cotton, it's not a terrible bazayin, as the Mishnah already says. Idna Rischa L'chayra applies even like the Rosh, but a person should be Chacham Leiv to wear tzitzis at night. That's him talking until he goes to sleep, obviously. And Oyev Mitzvah Yizba Mitzvahs. If someone takes off the tzitzis at night, you should put them back. And Moshe says you don't have to, but it seems like the Rosh, there would be an Indian to put it back. The minhag of wearing a talis by Maariv, the Shliach Tzibah, is nothing to do with the mitzvah. It's really, it's Kvoid HaTzibur. It's based on a Gemara, obviously, but basically the minhag is als Kvoid HaTzibur. The bracha that we say, should be before shkia at all times. There is a tzati mekel a few minutes after shkia because it's still a zman of re'isa moisei, Yom Kippur. There's much more reason to be on time, halacha, and also of course in the hashkafa of it. But basically a few minutes after shkia there's still a little leeway regarding saying the bracha. The zman of night and day is not totally in night or day, it's totally in mishayakir in the morning and re'isim at night. The chiddush of tradition is that an early Maariv makes it night is a chiddush gadol, inconsistent with all of the understanding of the early Maariv, but the Shulchan Aruch was choishish l'chumra. So if you put on a talis or tzittis at night, after Maariv by day, a bracha is not said. If he didn't wear tefillin, and maybe probably a bein tam tefillin with the same thing after early Maariv, he should put it on because you don't want to miss that mitzvah. Some sleep in the tzitzis, some sleep in shlav tzitzis, and some don't sleep at all. The bracha is not the issue. You can work around the bracha, but the ikka is the sugya, whether it's an inyan or not to sleep in tzitzis. A wool blanket that's used only by day, like the Magen Avraham Mishnah Berurah, there's an inyan to round off the corner, but if it's a regular blanket at night, there is no inyan. Tisha B'Av to mincha, one should take off the al pi halacha, you keep on a few minutes after shkia. The Arizah was makbid. The earliest time is mishayakir, or even earlier, alois b'di'eved, but basically the zman should be mishayakir, that's sometime close to like an hour or less than an hour before netzacham. La'alocha, it's mutter to make tzitz at night. If someone does all the hidurim, this might be one of them. Shlaf tzitzis by day is not advisable because you might be a beged Laila. Converting it is not taslem and asui. When you wear or put on tzitz at night, I think either you want to make it tanai, but it's understood. I'm doing it al stirosh, al safik mitzvah. There's no bal taisif, like taisif in many places, but it's understood that we don't want to be bal taisif, so it's an understood tanai. Yes, thank you.